They were names that once commanded worldwide admiration: singers, actors, athletes, comedians. Each rose to the very top, becoming timeless icons of their generation. Yet, in an instant, everything changed. A crash on the road, a twist of fate, and the sound of impact silenced the applause. These were not scripted endings, no triumphant finales, only sudden, heartbreaking turns that remind us how fragile life can be. These moments were more than just accidents. This is the tragedy born of speed and carelessness, of alcohol-fueled choices and rain-slicked roads, of an unsent message and a turn made too late. Each figure on this list once seemed untouchable, on stage, on screen, on the track, or beneath the stadium lights. Yet none could outrun the sudden silence of a crash or the blinding instant when everything changed. Some names you will know well. Others may surprise you. Stories of lives that ended without headlines. A few have faded into obscurity, while others are remembered as legends, defined as much by their departure as by their triumphs. What makes this list truly unsettling isn't just the way these lives ended, but the reminder that it could happen to anyone. One careless choice, one brief distraction, one turn that can't be undone. And if you feel a sense of shock reading these words, remember this: don't just be surprised today. Life, like a car without brakes, can move forward without warning. Have you heard of these stories before? If yes, drop a 1 below. If not, comment 0. Don't forget to watch closely, hit like if this video resonates with you, and subscribe to support the channel's growth. Share it so more people can learn and be reminded of the importance of safe driving. Next comes the story of Lisa Left Eye Lopes, the fiery soul and unforgettable personality of the legendary girl group TLC. With her piercing gaze, bold style, and fearless spirit, she energized 90s R&B, becoming an icon the world could never replace. Lisa's passion and unapologetic strength gave TLC its unique edge, helping the group rise as one of the most successful and influential girl bands of all time. Yet her journey came to an end in a way both heartbreaking and almost unimaginable. On April 25, 2002, Lisa was behind the wheel of a rented Mitsubishi Montero SUV in La Ceiba, Honduras, on a special trip that blended documentary filming with personal reflection. When a truck suddenly appeared, she swerved to avoid it, but the vehicle lost control. The SUV rolled several times before striking 2 roadside trees, ending in a devastating crash. It all happened so quickly that no one had the chance to change the outcome. Ironically, Lisa was not wearing her seatbelt that day, and when the vehicle lost control, she was thrown from it. The aftermath was devastating. Glass shattered, metal twisted, and her body fatally impacted. When the dust cleared, she lay still, and her passing was confirmed at the scene. She was only 30 years old, far too young, far too sudden, leaving the music world and her fans in deep shock and sorrow. Even more haunting, just days before the crash, Lisa had spoken of a strange feeling that someone was watching her, as if fate itself was drawing near, a chilling premonition that continues to unsettle her admirers to this day. They were the stars who lit up the worlds of music, film, and sports, until fate intervened in ways no one could imagine. At the forefront is Dottie West, the queen of country music, known for her distinctive raspy voice and fiery spirit. She was among the first women in Nashville to write and produce her own albums, blazing a trail for countless female artists after her. Yet in a twist of irony, it was her trust in seeking help that ultimately led to her untimely end. On August 30th, 1991, after her car broke down, Dottie West accepted an unexpected ride to the Grand Ole Opry from her neighbor, George Thaxton, a stage she had always called her temple. As they approached the steep road leading to Opryland, Thaxton misjudged the curve, driving around 55 miles per hour instead of slowing to a safer speed. The car left the roadway and struck an embankment with an impact so powerful it was said to rival the force of a small train, plastic. The crash left the car completely destroyed. Though Dottie survived the initial impact, her injuries proved too severe for doctors to overcome. She passed away at 58, leaving Nashville in deep mourning. The woman who helped shape country music as we know it did not leave us through the passage of time, but through a heartbreaking twist of fate. Someone who had always stood strong lost her life because she placed her trust in those who simply wished to help. She was beautiful, intelligent, and fearless, a trailblazer in a world long dominated by men. Jessica Savage didn't just report the news, she defined it. As one of the first women to anchor a major television network program in the U.S., she shattered barriers with her composure, strength, and a voice that could cut through the noise of any moment. Yet behind the polished image on screen was a fragile reality, and a tragic ending more haunting than any headline she ever delivered. October 23, 1983. It was a rainy night in New Hope, Pennsylvania. Jessica and her boyfriend, Martin Fishbein, were driving home after dinner along a narrow, winding road, slick with fog. There were no lights, no signs, only darkness. In those conditions, the vehicle veered off course and plunged into a canal, leaving them trapped with no way out. By the time rescuers arrived, it was too late. Jessica Savage, a trusted face to millions, was gone. She was only 36 years old, and her passing stunned the entire nation. A rising media icon silenced not by scandal or burnout, but by a cruel twist of fate on a lonely road. No cameras, no final words, only silent tears for the voice that millions once trusted. Jessica's life burned bright like a shooting star, and her end was as heartbreaking as it was sudden. Perhaps the most haunting part is that the woman who always delivered the last word never had the chance to tell her own final story. During the golden era of American country music, Jack Anglin was a name that echoed through bars, radio stations, and the hearts of countless listeners. His rich, heartfelt voice carried stories of rural hardship, loneliness, and the fragile hopes of working-class Americans. But his final journey was not another tour. It was a fateful farewell. One morning, after leaving the city following a farewell concert, Jack's car met tragedy on a treacherous mountain road. The drizzle and loose gravel caused the vehicle to lose control, skidding off the road and down the slope. Though he was rushed to the hospital, his injuries were too severe, and Jack Anglin passed away before he arrived, ending his life and career at just 47. His death sent shockwaves through the country music world. The songs he left behind, like his own life, were simple, heartfelt, and deeply moving. And in a cruel irony, the man who had written countless farewell songs for others never had the chance to sing one for himself. She didn't follow the rules. She shattered them. Isadora Duncan was the rebellious queen of modern dance, a woman who abandoned the rigid traditions of ballet and let her soul spill onto the stage with untamed, flowing movement. Draped in long shawls and a Grecian tunic, she wasn't just dancing, she was redefining art itself. Yet, in a turn more tragic than any Greek play, it was that same flair for the dramatic that ultimately led to her untimely end. September 14th, 1927. In the beauty of France, Duncan, now 50 years old, stepped into a sleek Amilcar CGS convertible sports car. She was radiant, as fearless as ever. Her trademark silk scarf was draped loosely around her neck, fluttering like a stage curtain, her unmistakable signature. Moments later, the car pulled away. In an instant, the flowing scarf caught in the open rear wheel spokes and was pulled tight. The sudden pull dragged her from the car, striking her down onto the street. Though bystanders rushed to help, it was too late. The icon was gone, taken by the very symbol of freedom she so loved. She departed this world having lived a life of drama and passion, never once regretting her art. Isadora Duncan was not just a dancer. She was a movement, and her passing, as surreal and haunting as her life, remains a chilling reminder that sometimes what defines us can also undo us. He didn't just play jazz, he reshaped it with every note. A saxophone genius and a cornerstone of the bebop revolution, Barry Chewberry electrified audiences with solos like lightning in a bottle, unpredictable, thrilling, unforgettable. He stood shoulder to shoulder with legends who were redefining the sound of a generation. Yet just as his career reached its peak, fate silenced his instrument forever. October 27th, 1941. Somewhere along a highway in Kit, Ohio, Barry was behind the wheel, perhaps planning his next performance or humming a new melody in his mind. But the music stopped when his car collided head-on with another vehicle. It happened in an instant, leaving no chance for a farewell. Leon Chewberry was only 33 years old when his life ended at the scene, a loss that echoed far beyond the stage. Coleman Hawkins admired him. Charlie Parker was inspired by him. Barry wasn't just part of jazz history. He was writing it as it unfolded. But the road has no regard for genius. The crash that claimed his life did more than end a career. It silenced a sound still reverberating through the music world. There was no farewell tour, no final performance, only a sudden headline and a void that nothing could ever replace. If this video touched you and you want to honor the legends we've remembered, please like and share so more people can discover their stories. Comment below and tell us which story moved you most, or let us know if there's another icon you'd like us to cover. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss these authentic, powerful videos about the real-life triumphs and tragedies of the stars you love. Finally, closing the first part, we come to Tom Mix, the original cowboy of American cinema. Long before Clint Eastwood or John Wayne, Mix had appeared in more than 300 silent films, performing daring stunts and embodying a rugged masculinity that captivated women and won the admiration of men. Yet even legends cannot escape the hand of fate. On October 12, 1940, Tom Mix was driving his beloved convertible from Tucson, Arizona, after a visit with the local sheriff. During his journey through the desert, something went wrong with the car, and he lost control with no time to recover. The accident claimed his life at the scene. His passing sent shockwaves through the nation, marking the end of a golden era in American Western cinema. A true icon was gone, not from age or illness, but from an unforeseen twist of fate. Tom Mix, the first silver screen cowboy and a true symbol of the American West, met with misfortune on a small detour. Driving his yellow-cored Phaeton convertible from Tucson toward Florence, he suddenly lost control and the car overturned. In the chaos, an aluminum suitcase from the back seat struck him, and the 60-year-old legend was gone instantly. The cowboy who had appeared in more than 300 films took his final ride on a road he would never return from. Today, a small roadside memorial still stands, decorated with hats and boots left by devoted fans honoring his memory. He sang of taxi drivers, distant fathers, and the everyday struggles that shape our lives. Harry Chapin was more than a musician. He was a storyteller whose songs carried raw honesty and a voice that touched the hearts of millions. But on a summer afternoon in 1981, the man who gave voice to so many who felt unheard met a cruel twist of fate on the highway, behind the wheel, chasing yet another stretch of road. July 16, 1981. Chapin was on his way to perform at a free fundraising concert, something he often did with generosity and heart. Driving his Volkswagen Rabbit along the Long Island Expressway, he never saw what was coming. A tractor-trailer struck his car from behind at high speed, leaving the vehicle crushed beyond recognition. Fire broke out, and chaos followed. Chapin was rushed by helicopter to Nassau County Medical Center, but sadly, it was too late. The loss was devastating. At just 38 years old, Harry Chapin was gone. His passing shocked not only his fans, but also the very causes he had championed. He gave millions of dollars to fight famine and devoted his life to speaking up for those without a voice. In a bittersweet irony, it was during a moment of generosity on his way to help others that he began his final journey. The brightest flame of rock and roll was extinguished during a tragic taxi ride. Young, wild, and overflowing with passion, Eddie Cochran was more than just a rising star. He was the soundtrack of teenage rebellion. With hits like Summertime Blues and Come On Everybody, this rock and roll prodigy electrified the late 1950s, delivering raw energy and masterful guitar riffs that would inspire generations to come. But just as his career was ready to soar, fate struck on a rainy April night. On April 17, 1960, Eddie was wrapping up a whirlwind tour in England, riding in a taxi with his fiancée Sharon Sheely and fellow rocker Gene Vincent. The trio was headed to the airport, America and more hit songs only hours away. But in the quiet town of Chippenham, the taxi lost control and slammed into a lamppost. Metal buckled, glass broke, and in an instant, everything changed. The crash was chaos, filled with screams and confusion. In those final moments, Cochran, ever the gentleman, is said to have shielded Sharon with his own body, a choice that may have cost him his life. He was rushed to St. Martin's Hospital, barely conscious, holding on by a thread. But on April 18, 1960, just a day later, Eddie Cochran was gone. He was only 21 years old. The music world reeled in shock, and fans were left heartbroken. A legend in the making had been stolen away by fate. Yet even in his short life, Cochran's legacy still roars through every amplifier, every anthem, every teenage cry that dares to defy the rules. Gone in the blink of an eye, with steel and smoke. He wasn't just ahead of his time. Ernie Kovacs bent time itself. A mad genius of television comedy, he turned absurdity into art and made the small screen his playground. With surreal humor and a mischievous grin, Kovacs didn't just entertain, he rewrote the rules of comedy. Yet the man who mocked convention never got the punchline he truly deserved. January 13th, 1962. Just past midnight in West Los Angeles. Kovac, ever the night owl, was behind the wheel of his Chevrolet Corvair after leaving a party. Perhaps tired, perhaps distracted, or simply unlucky. As he sped through the empty streets, control slipped away. The car veered off course and struck a utility pole with devastating force. When rescuers arrived, it was already too late. The man who once made millions laugh was gone in an instant. He was only 42 years old. The news landed like a punch to the gut. One of television's most daring and brilliant voices silenced, not by censorship or criticism, but by a cruel twist of fate. In the end, there were no camera tricks, no laughter, only the glow of streetlights over a fallen genius. Ernie Kovacs lived to surprise the world, and in his passing, he left one final, heartbreaking surprise. He was not just a runner. Steve Prefontaine was a force of nature. With a mustache as bold as his confidence and strides that stunned the world, he was America's long-distance rebel. He shattered records, challenged authority, and raced as if every finish line might be his last. But his story didn't end on an Olympic track. It ended on a quiet Oregon road, in circumstances as tragic as they were unexpected. On May 29, 1975, Prefontaine had just left a barbecue in Eugene, Oregon. Drinks had been flowing, and by the time he got behind the wheel of his MG convertible, his blood alcohol level was twice the legal limit. Only minutes later, tragedy struck. His car swerved, overturned, and pinned him beneath the wreckage. He was just 24 years old. By the time help arrived, it was too late. A champion was silenced, not by a rival on the track, but by his own reckless choice. A tragedy that stunned the nation. America had lost its golden boy of resilience, a man who could outrun everything except the weight of one fateful decision. Steve Prefontaine lived the way he raced, fearless, fiery, and fast. But even the quickest man on the track could not outrun a turn that came too sharp, too late, too final. He lived on the edge and then went beyond it. Ryan Dunn was more than just a member of a wild stunt crew. He was the heartbeat of the chaos. With his carefree grin and a body marked by countless stunts, he made fans laugh, cringe, and cheer. But the man who turned danger into entertainment met his final moment in a fiery tragedy. June 20th, 2011, West Goshen Township, Pennsylvania. After a night out at Barnaby's bar with friends, including production assistant Zachary Hartwell, Dunn took the wheel of his Porsche 911 GT3. Investigators later reported he was driving at around 130 mph with a blood alcohol level more than twice the legal limit. Then came the turn, the tree, and the fire. The crash was sudden and devastating, and both Dunn and Hartwell lost their lives at the scene. Dunn was only 34 years old, just 1 week past his birthday. Fans were stunned, and condolences poured in. But soon, debate followed. How could a man who risked death for laughs let that same daring spirit end his life? Ryan Dunn had built his career on pushing every boundary. But that night, the line between thrill and tragedy disappeared in the fire. One last ride, one final stunt, and this time, there was no second take. Fast, fearless, and unstoppable in the net, Pelle Lindbergh was no ordinary NHL goalie. He was the future of the game. The young Swede had just carried the Philadelphia Flyers to the Stanley Cup Finals and claimed the Vezina Trophy as the league's best goaltender. At only 26, his legend was just beginning, until it came to a sudden halt, November 10, 1985. It was another wild night in Philadelphia, but this one ended in heartbreak. Behind the wheel of his turbocharged Porsche 930, Lindbergh sped through the streets, adrenaline still pumping, the taste of glory still fresh. But speed and celebration proved a dangerous combination. At high velocity, he lost control, and the car slammed into a brick wall with devastating force. He was rushed to the hospital, but his injuries were far too severe to overcome. He was declared brain dead the following day, leaving the NHL community in shock. Fans gathered at the stadium, laying down jerseys and flowers in his honor. The Flyers had lost not only a star, but the very heart of their team. Just moments earlier, he was a superhero in pads and gloves. Moments later, he became a memory frozen in time. If you had the chance to send one final message to these legends before they left us, what would it be? Nicholas "Razzle" Dingley brought raw energy and fearless punk style to Hanoi Rocks, the Finnish glam rock band poised to shake the world. With his wild hair and even wilder drumming, Razzle wasn't just part of the music, he was the rhythm. But in a moment of reckless chaos true to rock and roll, that rhythm was cut short on a night that began with nothing more than a run for beer. December 8, 1984. The party was in full swing at Vince Neil's mansion, the notorious frontman of Motley Crue. Bottles clinked, music roared, and amid the haze, someone realized the alcohol had run out. Razzle and Neil, both reported to be heavily intoxicated, jumped into Neil's De Tomaso Pantera to make a quick run for more. But the ride back would be anything but safe. Speeding through the streets of Redondo Beach, Neil lost control and the car veered off course, slamming head-on into another vehicle. The crash was devastating. Razzle lost his life instantly. He was only 24 years old. The accident not only claimed a young talent but also cut short Hanoi Rocks' rise, leaving behind a cautionary tale that still echoes through the rock scene. One night of drinking, one reckless choice, and a legend was gone. Razzle lived for the noise, but he left in silence, on the road, not the stage. For fans who still mourn him, his passing remains a stark reminder that rock and roll can be unforgiving, even after the amplifiers are turned off. He is a Canadian icon, strong, agile, and unshakable on the ice. Tim Horton didn't just skate for glory. He carved his name into hockey history with every crushing hit and explosive burst of speed. The man who helped build the Toronto Maple Leafs dynasty and later an entire coffee empire, however, did not meet his end on the ice. Instead, his life ended alone on a dark road, behind the wheel of a sports car that would never return. On February 21, 1974, after playing against his former team in Toronto, Horton began the drive back to Buffalo in his De Tomaso Pantera. It was late at night. He was injured, yet determined. No teammates, no driver, just him and 99 miles of highway ahead. Somewhere along the Queen Elizabeth Way near St. Catharines, Ontario, he lost control and the car veered off course. The crash was fatal, and police later reported that he had not been wearing a seatbelt. There was speculation about speed, about substances, but no clear answers. Tim Horton was gone at just 44 years old. The news stunned an entire nation. Fans mourned, teammates wept, and a brand bearing his name would go on to become legendary. Yet that same name also stands as a cautionary tale, etched forever into the asphalt of Canada. He made the drums roar like thunder and lived life with the same intensity he brought to the stage. Cozy Powell was more than a drummer. He was a rock god, driving the rhythm for legendary bands like Rainbow, Black Sabbath, and Whitesnake. Every strike of his sticks carried pure power. But on a stormy night in England, that rhythm fell silent forever. He made the drums roar like thunder and lived life with the same intensity he brought to the stage. Cozy Powell was more than a drummer. He was a rock god, driving the rhythm for legendary bands like Rainbow, Black Sabbath, and Whitesnake. Every strike of his sticks carried pure power. But on a stormy night in England, that rhythm fell silent forever. On April 5, 1998, Powell was driving his Saab 9000 at high speed down the M4 motorway, adrenaline running high and alcohol in his system. Reports later confirmed his blood alcohol level was above the legal limit. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt and was on the phone when the car lost control. It veered off the road and struck a bridge pillar, ending in a sudden and tragic crash. He passed away at 50, just as he was preparing a return to music. The rock world was stunned. Cozy had survived decades of wild tours, relentless parties, and even brushes with death. But it wasn't a fall from the stage or a backstage fight that claimed him. It was the unforgiving reality of the road. His drumming once shook entire arenas, but now the silence left behind is overwhelming. He was the man who invented late-night television as we know it. Steve Allen wasn't just a host. He was a whirlwind of wit, charm, and creativity who pioneered The Tonight Show and forever changed the entertainment industry. A comedian, musician, writer, and true Renaissance talent, Allen's mind moved faster than most people could even speak. In the end, it wasn't scandal or illness that claimed his life. It was something silent, hidden, and cruelly ironic. On October 30th, 2000 in Los Angeles, Allen was driving to visit his son when another car backed out of a driveway and struck him. The damage seemed minor, and he felt no serious pain. He brushed it off with a smile, but something was wrong. Hours later, at his son's house, Allen lay down for a nap and never woke up. Doctors later discovered that an internal hemorrhage from the accident had quietly taken his life. He was 78 years old. No alarms, no breaking headlines, just a genius quietly fading while the world went on unaware. The man who once filled living rooms with laughter left in silence. Steve Allen's passing was not only tragic, but haunting in its simplicity. The father of late-night television wasn't taken by fame or scandal, but by a delay, a brief nap, and an unseen injury. Even legends are not always given one last curtain call. He sang of the glory of war and legends of the past, yet his own death became a haunting story for the ages. Johnny Horton, the voice behind timeless hits like the Battle of New Orleans and North to Alaska, had a gift that turned history into song. His music felt larger than life, because he was. But his end did not come on a battlefield. It came quietly, on a dark Texas highway in the middle of the night. On November 5th, 1960, Horton had just finished a performance at the Skyline Club in Austin and was heading to Shreveport with his bandmates. Spirits were high, and the roads were quiet. until a truck suddenly approached on a narrow bridge in Milam County. The collision was head-on and devastating. Horton was gravely injured and never made it to the hospital, passing away on the way. He was only 35 years old. His bandmates survived, but they carried scars that would never fully fade. Guitarist Tommy Tomlinson lost a leg. Bassist Tillman Franks suffered a head injury. But the greatest loss was the man whose voice once sang history into life, now becoming part of it in tragedy. Johnny Horton made us remember the battles of yesterday, yet his final chapter was written not in melody, but on a lonely Texas road. Just the Texas road. Just the Texas road. Just the Texas road. Life is fragile and unpredictable, with challenges and risks that can appear at any moment. The tragic deaths of these famous figures are not only heartbreaking losses for their families, friends, and fans, but also a sobering wake-up call for us all. They once stood at the height of glory, inspiring millions and leaving unforgettable marks on the hearts of the public. Yet in an instant, reckless choices, complacency, or a single wrong decision cut their lives short, leaving behind sorrow that never truly fades. This is the clearest proof that safety on the road should never be taken lightly, no matter who you are or where you're headed. These tragedies stand as a powerful reminder that caution, awareness, and responsibility protect not only ourselves, but also everyone around us. Life is precious, and no amount of fame or fortune can buy back lost time. We hope that the stories of these 20 tragic celebrity car accidents inspire you to reflect, cherish every moment, and raise greater awareness about safe driving, for yourself and for the community. If you found this video meaningful, please give it a like to show your support, and share it so this important message can reach more people. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the real, heartfelt, and inspiring stories we have coming up. Thank you for being here and for listening. Stay safe on every journey, cherish your life, and hold close the loved ones around you. Because sometimes, even the smallest decision can change everything.